If you are a parent of an athlete, I want you to hear this. You are already your kid's most powerful mental performance coach. It's not me. It's not their strength coach. It's not their varsity coach. It's you. The way you talk in the minivan, at the dinner table, and after games is literally wiring your athlete's brain for either confidence or anxiety. That is a lot of pressure, and it's kind of daunting. And that's why I created my free email course called the Resilient Parents Playbook. In it, I walk you through the 5 most common mistakes we make as sports parents, and I give you simple, practical tools to fix them. You'll learn how to praise effort and attitude instead of just results, how to handle the car ride home, and how to help your kid manage nerves and pressure in a healthy way. It's completely free. Just hit the link in the show notes and grab the Resilient Parents Playbook and start becoming the kind of mental coach your athlete actually needs at home.
This is the Mental Mettle Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission to help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your mettle.
Welcome back, Metalheads. It's Coach Thomann here with the Mental Mettle Podcast. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for every week for joining, listening, watching on YouTube, liking, sharing, and subscribing. I really appreciate it. It really helps the podcast go. And I can't do it without listeners and watchers and everybody that's following me on social media. I thank you so much. And guests like today are the result of that, because people share it, like it, the podcast grows, and then people reach out to me. And today's guest is just going to do nothing but to help the podcast and help the idea of what I'm trying to do here, because Jim and I, we think about things a lot the same, and we're trying to do the same kind of message and same kind of thing. And we talk about so many things that we see eye to eye on. And Jim, it's a phenomenal story. Jim Logan was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and given about 6 months to live. And he said, okay, that's great, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to lean into it. And what he did was, he was a triathlon guy, and he's 59 years old, but he still liked to run and do triathlons. And he always wanted to do and finish an Ironman. And he said, well, I'm not going to let cancer keep me from doing that. So it's a great story. And it's not really just about cancer, because it's a story about faith, perspective, resilience, and what happens when you just decide to keep trying, as he puts it. And you're going to find out that Jim was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and given 6 months to live. And that 6 months came and went a while ago. And just his story of that healing and faith and just that determination that he has, it is just a fantastic conversation. And I can't wait for you to get in and listen to it. So let's jump into it with Jim Logan.
Your athlete probably spends hours working on the specific skill set they need for their sport. And they probably spend hours in the weight room building their body. But how much time do they spend intentionally training their mind? Well, building mindset is the key to bridging the gap between the skills that we see and game execution. Well, Mental Mettle Coaching provides individual programs that can help your athlete develop this third and crucial skill set.
All right, welcome back to the Mental Mettle Podcast. Your host, Coach Thomann here, and I'm here with my guest today, Jim Logan. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm So you sent me your book, and I mean, I didn't able to read the whole thing, but
Sure.
you know what I'm saying. But you just before I hit record, you and I were talking about how there's not a lot new. It's just different ways of saying, especially like you said, all the way back to the Stoics.
Yeah.
We go all the way back to Marcus Aurelius if we want,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just different people saying different things.
Right.
And of course, I guess Marcus probably stole it from
Someone else. Yeah.
somebody else. But my point is, as I read your book, I'm like, yep, I say that in a different way. I say that in a different way. I say that in a different way. I was like, oh, I know enough of his story to know where that emotion and where that feeling's coming from. I get you. And that's another way to say I'm really excited to have this conversation, because anytime I can talk to somebody who thinks like I do, who writes and does things like that, it speaks to me and it speaks to my soul. And like, we're trying to do the same things in the way we're trying to help people. And I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It didn't start out this way for sure. You know, I lived a pretty charmed life for the first 59 and a half years. Can't really complain about much. My dad was a UPS executive, so we moved around a lot. Ended up going to high school in Germany in 1978 to 82, so I got to see the world. Found my way to Georgia, Atlanta in 1993, met and married my wife in 96. Started a home inspection business, had that for 30 years, very successful 30 years in business, just retired recently. With my stage 4 diagnosis, April of 2024, kind of upended my life, and I completely restructured things and narrowed my focus to be more purposeful with the time that I have left. So at some point I stopped worrying about dying, and I was more concerned with how I was living, and that's made all the difference.
Isn't it amazing? Like, we just don't know. Who knew that, like, this is going to be, for better or worse, Jim, this is going to be the thing you get to be known for, and how you help people. And it's something that you like, it wasn't on your radar, right? It's
No,
not
not at all. And it's funny because someone had asked me the other day if I was upset or angry that it took 59 and a half years to come to these realizations, that if had I found out sooner, I could have done more. And I said, I'm not going to hold myself responsible for knowledge I could only gain through time and experience. And as we guys were talking in the earlier podcast I listened to today, I'm not questioning God's timing either. So apparently that was my incubation period. And once I understood what God wanted from me, all the doors are just opening up, and life is opening up to me in a way that is effortless and joyful as I just focus on the day in front of me and continue to do things that I think I feel led to do, which was writing the book initially to give faith to the faithless, hope to the hopeless, and to prove the Ironman motto, which is anything is possible. Mm-hmm. The other goal was to somehow get to Kona, which I didn't know how I was going to do either. I'd never written a book. I'm not an author, and I had no idea how to get to Kona because I'm not very fast. I've got a lot of DNFs in the Ironman world.
Yeah.
So both of those were big, giant dreams, and I made both come true. So the power of belief, the power of faith is absolutely real.
Yeah. So I think that when you're talking about like it took that long, it's not that it took that long for you to get to this place of helping people and doing these things, but it takes perspective, and
what I say in the book is that I've always been a faithful man, but not a man full of faith.
There's a difference.
I was raised Irish and Catholic, and Catholic Church. I've always believed in God. I always believed in heaven and hell and all the principles of it, but I wasn't 100% all in.
Yeah,
and it's not a part-time thing.
No,
God demands a full-time effort. So I said I was a faithful man, but not a man full of faith. So it was a faith of convenience. And I would say the biggest sin that I probably committed in the first 59 and a half years was being a little bit complacent.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think being a sinner or sinful is this big, evil, awful things. And sometimes it's the little subtle ones that really can drain you. And I think I was guilty of complacency. And then you were talking about the other day about vulnerability. I called it humility. Mm-hmm. I lacked humility, and I was complacent. So those are the two things that I think have really changed me quite a bit. So,
it keeps us from growing. And that's the problem.
You get comfortable in life. I had some success with my home inspection business. My wife was doing pretty well as well. So we're doing okay. And it's almost a human nature thing to lean back and relax a little bit when
Sure.
I've learned now one of the, I always say the gifts, cancer's given me many gifts. One gift was time, and then time gives you opportunities, and what you do with that, is up to you. But to have the time to do the things that I'm doing now, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because there's just been too many benefits from it.
Yeah. See, and that's something I'm going to reach out. And so as I say this here, I don't want to, there is zero comparison. There's some parallels, but not comparison in the situation that I faced and that you're facing, and yours is much more dire. But I've had a cancer diagnosis, and that led me to having some anxiety and having a stroke, in which I had to. Mm-hmm. So I've had these serious health issues. I didn't ever have a situation where I was told I wasn't going to live. Right. And that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But I can still tell you that when something like that happens, and somebody like me or somebody like you that says, hey, this is one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
I would say that, and I say it in the book, cancer is the worst thing that ever happened to me. It's also the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I call it, and it's in the book, but my life had become like a snow globe, like you have at Christmas on your mantle. Mm-hmm. Everything was very settled. And, me, the wife, the kid, the dog, it was a perfect setting. And that's where the complacency comes in. Mm-hmm. I wasn't using all of my talents and skills the way they were supposed to be used. I wasn't motivating people. I wasn't meeting people. I wasn't inspiring people. And as you look at your life and you wonder what makes a life worth living, I've come down to a couple of really simple conclusions. Is you'll be measured by how many people you impact in a positive way. So that's what I set out to do now with the book, and with my effort to go to the Ironman, is to lift some spirits and maybe help some people along the way. And in that process, you get almost 10 times as much back. The giving is just the first, you get more than you give by a lot. And that's been my experience. And, meeting you and meeting so many other people from around the world, really, and getting positive feedback on, my story, my message, and sharing it and writing the book. And it's just been really rewarding.
Yeah. So when was there a moment in which it switched? Because I'm sure when you get the diagnosis, mm-hmm. it's easy to say, "Oh, it's the worst thing that's ever happened."
No, I didn't start with that. The man sitting before you today is not the guy that got the diagnosis in April of 24.
That's what I want to get to. Yeah. Is what took that? Because I can tell you that
I was pretty high on my horse at the time, and I walked. I was 185 pounds, single-digit body fat, 2 weeks away from the Ironman Texas 2024. I was, feeling pretty good about myself, although I was starting to have some issues. So I went to the doctor, ordered a colonoscopy, and of course he tells me I'm stage 4 terminal.
That's hard to swallow, isn't it?
Yeah, and they don't really say much after that. So I went out and sat on there's a little park bench out in front of the doctor's office, and I probably sat there for probably 30, 45 minutes just trying to absorb what I had just heard and trying to figure out how I'm going to go home and tell my wife and son. And just all the swirl of thoughts, terminal keeps ringing in my head. It's funny because as I look back now, they said 6 months, maybe 2 years. No surgical options were available to me at the time because there were just so many tumors in my liver. So, terminal, the easiest definition is the end. And now I'm 25 months in. I have no evidence of disease, second time in 2 years. And when I look back, there was anything but the end. It was the beginning of so many other things. But it took me 6 months to get to a place where I understood what was happening. After 6 months, I was in pretty bad shape. I had lost about 35 pounds. I had a level 3 skin infection. I was still competing in Ironman triathlons. I did Chattanooga, September of 24, and had a horrible time at that race. And when I came home, I really felt like I was close to dying, pretty much what the doctors had said, 6 mm-hmm. months, maybe 2 years. And that's when I really found my humility and just surrendered everything to God and said, I'll just leave it all in your hands. I didn't pray for my life or for a cure, just that if I died, that I would do it in a way that's least harmful to my family, and just, begged forgiveness and begged to get into heaven. So the next week I got a scan that showed all the tumors in my liver had disappeared, but a few, which opened up a surgical option that wasn't there previously. And to me, I know a lot of people say, well, the chemo worked. It's like, no, that's more than that. That's divine intervention. That went from red light to green light. It's like, okay, I get it now. And instead of worrying about dying, I started worrying about living. And that's when I started thinking about what I could do to be of service. So I retired as a home inspector. I began to write the book, which took over a year.
Yeah.
I put a lot of time into it, and I didn't care how long it took. I just wanted it to be a good product. And I think I accomplished that. So I'm pretty proud of that part of it. But it took a long time to do. And I think that kind of shows. I didn't use AI.
No, I think
got it done a little bit quicker.
No,
but it's my story. It's my legacy. So I wanted to make it, something worthwhile. And so far, the people that have read it everybody seems to pull something a little different out of it. So I'm kind of like that. Young and old, men and women seem to get something different. So it covers a pretty big spectrum too, between triathlon, faith, and cancer. I think there's something in there for everybody.
It's funny that you say that, because I've got a book that's at my editor right now, and sometimes he's sending me stuff. And
that's great.
Like, I don't know who this is for, and I'm like, listen, I understand where you're coming from. That I don't necessarily know who it's for, but I know that people, if it gets in the right hands, and if God helps that happen, people will find what they need. Yeah. And I think that's what's happening with your book, is that like people will read that and if your people are looking for something, they will find it, and they will say, oh, that applies to me. And you might be like, that's not really what I meant, but we'll take it. Right.
And that's where the title, Just Keep Trying, because, initially when I was doing the Ironmans and I was really not in great shape and I was failing miserably, a lot of people asked me, why do you continue to do this? And why I kept trying, I wasn't even sure myself, but it just felt compelled to something that I had to do. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want my last race to be my last race, I suppose. Whatever reason was the reason, I kept trying. And if I didn't do that, it wouldn't have led me to the Ironman Foundation, and it wouldn't have led me to the Ironman World Championship. And who knows what else might not have happened had I just given up. Yeah. And the message would be to anybody out there, no matter how bad yesterday was, you got to keep getting up and just you'd be surprised if you keep moving forward. Even though you can't see the finish line now, you'll things will open up. You'll get there if you just get up and keep trying, keep pushing forward.
This is something, I don't know what you feel about this. I have an idea, but it's not about the finish line.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that now, because initially in Ironman and throughout my race, 300, it's always been about the finish line. And then you get a terminal disease. And I began to realize that for me, it was more about getting to the start line. Mm-hmm. And then even beyond that, I have a passage in the book where I use the analogy of, and this goes right along with the Ironman, because if you do a 10-month training program with 4 weeks in a month, that's 40 weeks, 10 sessions, 400 sessions over 280 days. And you're telling me that one day is more important than the 280 days and the 400?
It's not.
The money's already in the bank. You've already got all the benefits that are there. This is a coronation. Yes. And it's great, and you should get it. And I want that finish line more than anything. But you cannot take away the fact that the money is in the journey, not so much the destination. And that's what it comes down to, is the day-to-day lifestyle is what I really enjoy, the discipline.
If you don't enjoy the discipline, if you don't enjoy the day-to-day, it's never going to happen.
Well, that's when people ask, why do you do Ironman? For the longest time, I didn't have a good answer. But now I just tell people, because I love it. You don't do anything like that, because if you don't have a passion for it, you're not going to do it. And for some people, it could be anything. It could be golf. It could be whatever your passion is. If you love it, you'll continue to do it. If you don't, you won't. So
I was talking to my son, is all into this stuff, and he gave me a quote, and I forget who it was, but it was something like, the man who enjoys walking will walk further than the man who enjoys the destination. Right? Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, I was forced, because I'm a bit of a philosopher as well. Is it the journey or the destination? The only destination I'm concerned with, and the only one that there is getting into heaven. That's the final finish line. I think everything in life is just an audition for that. Yeah. Life is the journey. The destination is, the kingdom of heaven. My earthly finish line is Kona, but the only one I'm really concerned with is the other one. So once you have that perspective and you realize that what we're doing here is just, a lot less important than sometimes we put to it. And this, to your point about the finish line, yes, the finish line is important, but it's not the only thing.
Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness, using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Mettle Coaching.
And there may be other things more valuable. The passage in the book that I put in there was a story of a guy who had a big rock in his front yard, and every day he would come out and take one swing of the sledgehammer to see if he could break it. And when the 1,000th day he came out and he swung this hammer for the 1,000th time and the rock broke. Was it the final swing, or was it the 999 previous swings that broke the rock? And that's why the benefits are, especially when you talk about an Ironman training program, by the time you get to the race, most of the benefits you've already achieved, and nobody can take that away from you.
Right. Yeah.
Race day is important, and this race day in Kona is the biggest one ever for me. My first goal, my first objective when I was entered into it 15 months previous to the start date was I didn't even know if I'd be alive that long.
Right.
Now it looks like I will be alive.
Yeah.
I'm doing really good, although I will be, believe it or not, I'm going to Emory tomorrow to have a surgery. I have since this started, 25 months ago, I've done.
Yeah, so let's do this. Give me a little bit of the time. Clear up the timeline for me for how long you've been doing Ironmans, and then how the disease figures in, and then get to where you're at there. Just for clarity's sake.
So I would say I've been doing the long distance endurance sports for over 30 years.
Okay.
My dad was a marathon runner. I watched him run marathons, so it's just always been kind of there. But organized triathlons didn't exist until the 90s, so probably the last 3 decades for those. And I naturally migrated to triathlon. 2018, I really started pursuing the Ironman because it was the big race on my list that I had not checked off.
Okay. And
believe it or not, I've got, I think, 8 DNFs now. The first 4 were for various reasons. The second 4 were for cancer and surgeries and different things. So I've got a long history of not finishing, but I'm more and more determined. So if you want to succeed, first you're going to fail.
Right.
So I'm proving that point. Then I got the diagnosis, and so I've been doing that forever. I got the diagnosis in April of 24.
Okay.
And since then I've done 24 chemotherapy sessions, 5 radiation treatments, and then surgeries to include the removal of 40% of my colon, 60% of my liver, all of my gallbladder, all of my rectum, resulting in the ileostomy that I have now hanging out of my stomach, which tomorrow we'll do surgery to fix that up because it's been prolapsing, and I can't train with my intestines hanging out of my belly.
No, not well.
But fortunately, when they do pop out, I can just shove them back in. So it's amazing what you get used to.
It's amazing.
But throughout that whole process, I continued to train the best I could. I continued to compete the best I could, half marathons and smaller triathlons, and a couple attempts at some Ironmans, which really didn't go well. Through the process, I got involved with the Ironman Foundation, which is how I met Audra, who's the executive director, which is how I got to Kona. Again, something I'm thankful to cancer for. I don't get to Kona without cancer.
It's crazy, right? It's
without cancer, I don't get there because, just to be slow and old, that's not enough. But Ironman Foundation, they always make room for people with, I'm a lifelong enthusiast and I support the sport for decades. So it's nice to be able to give back to them. And I've agreed to attempt to raise $100,000 for them with the profits from the book going towards that goal until we reach it. So,
that's awesome.
We're trying to put the whole thing together. And like I said, I was trying to find a way to do service. This is the way I'm doing it. So,
and Kona, for those that don't know, Kona is like the Super Bowl for the Ironman, right?
if you think about it, how unique it is in Ironman, that I don't think there's another professional sport where the pros line up with the amateurs, young and old, male and female, tall and short, thick and thin, everybody all on one course, one day. It's really a unique experience. And one of the cooler things that I think is, again, Ironman always makes room for, disabled athletes. Chris Nikic, first kid with Down syndrome to do it, guys with no legs, no arms, blind. I mean, the stories are always there, these inspirational stories that lift the human spirit and prove the Ironman motto that anything is possible. So I always give them credit for that. And I'm really proud to be on the IMF team and raising funds for the organization, give back to the community that I've really gotten so much out of in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So, and then I wrote a book in the meantime as well. Yeah. So it's only been 2 years. They told me 2 years ago that I would be dead by now, and now I have no evidence of disease. So another lesson there is you don't really know, and you shouldn't really listen to doctors when it comes to this kind of thing, because nobody really knows how you're going to respond to chemo. I totally give health and fitness lifestyle some credit for preparing me for the battles that I had to deal with and the recovery and so on and so forth.
Go back to something you said before about when you're talking about divine intervention, which I believe every.
I've had too many miracles happen to overlook all of this.
But if I do think, while I believe 100% in divine intervention, I think that God is the creator of the human body and the different things that we can do. For instance, when you start believing more positively, it starts to affect your body in a positive way.
Oh yeah.
And when you can start to, when you say you kind of just give it over and you're like, I'm not going to be.
And I was dying at that point with no hope.
Yes.
And then I turn around a week later and everything is now possible. And not only was it possible, I had my liver, I did all the surgeries, I did all the things to remove all the cancer. The cancer came back, we beat it again, and we'll keep going through this process as necessary. But, when you have a different mindset, I wasn't worried about dying. And if you think about it, if you're a Christian, heaven is the ultimate goal. It's a better, that's something to look forward to, even though we all love our life here on earth, that heaven's supposed to be better. So it'll be hard for the people you leave behind, but good for you move forward. So you lose the fear. Once you lose the fear of dying, then what else is there to be afraid of?
Yeah.
So faith replaces fear. And I remember the first day I was going into chemotherapy, I sat on the bench again, and for 30 minutes I stared at the building because I was afraid of the cancer. I was afraid of the chemo. I was afraid of dying. I was just afraid. And then 2 years later, or actually 18, 19 months later, I'm going back in for chemo. New tumors come back in. But this time I had faith that I wasn't afraid at all. I walked into the building and I know everybody's name. And I was like, all right, let's do it again.
Yeah. That sort of stuff, having a positive mindset, it matters much more than we understand that it does. And I think the research is starting to show some ways that it actually helps, but it goes a lot deeper than what we realize.
And I would say this is that when you lose the mind game in the cancer, and probably in life too, when you lose the mind, the body will follow, and the game is pretty much over at that point. So the physical battle, I can handle all the physical pain, all the surgeries, not a problem. The mental battle is a struggle even for me. And the mind is just like any other. It's not a muscle, but it's just like any other muscle in the body. It has to be exercised. It's not something you just don't have mental strength. You have to work on it. I have to work on it every day. Otherwise my mind will slip into the darkness. So it's a constant infusion of positivity, because otherwise, if you leave any space open, that's where the darkness will creep in, and you got to block it out.
I tell people all the time that I'm like, I'm a mental performance coach, worked with positive psychology. And I'm like, I'm not good at that because I'm naturally good at that. I'm good at that because I have to really work at it.
You worked at it just like anything else. Yeah.
Right. And that gives me nothing I teach any of my clients or work with any of the teams that I work with is nothing I tell you is the theoretical knowledge that I got from a book.
Yeah.
Some of it is, but it's also it's applied in my own life. So it's yeah.
A good question to ask people if you want to motivate somebody. A lot of younger people especially feel like they've got forever, so they lack a sense of urgency. I don't know why this thing keeps going off. They lack that sense of urgency. And so if you were to say to somebody, if I was to tell you today that you only have 2 years to live, or if I could tell you when you're going to die, would you want to know? And then if you knew, would it change how you live? And if it would, then make those changes.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. Yeah.
I know. Something else I want you to, that you mention in your book, one of these things that you say differently than I do, but we both say the same thing. And I love to say that the more that we practice intentional adversity, putting ourselves through really hard things on purpose, it better prepares us for mandatory adversity that it is coming at some point for everyone. And,
I went from Ironman to cancer.
Yeah. You say it in a different way, but you say the same thing.
I went from swim, bike, run to chemo, radiation, surgery.
Right.
And now it's a life and death battle with a life and death finish line.
Yeah.
But it's the same mentality. I look at, the chemo as just another obstacle to overcome. And when I look back, and I don't often look back, but I was just kind of looking back a little bit, I'm 4 months away from the start line in Kona. This surgery is not an ideal time for this, but I still got to do it. So, but when I look back on the previous months and all that I've been through, it's hard for me to imagine when I look at it that I did all that, but it's done.
Yeah.
So when I think about getting to Kona 30 months after diagnosis and all that I've been through and all the pain and all the suffering, that I can do anything for 17 hours on one day. That's the kind of, hopefully that's the mindset I'll bring to this race and be able to really, I'm planning to really enjoy my time there because I've been dreaming of it since 1982. So
yeah, it's a great story. You've got to be excited about it. Do you dare have any, this is interesting, do you have any doctors that are audacious enough to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, Jim?
That's how it started. None of my doctors thought it was a good idea to be doing any kind of long distance endurance sports, especially on chemo, because you're going to be tired and this and that. But what I've come to find out, and my doctor now is, I've won her over, Dr. Jha, my oncologist especially. My surgeon tomorrow, Dr. Sullivan's a marathon runner, so him and I are simpatico. So much so that he moved me way up on his schedule because he knows I'm going to Kona. But Dr. Jha has become a believer. She's never worked with a long distance endurance athlete, and my blood numbers are better than everybody else's for some unknown reason. Well, we don't know what the reason is. I live a healthier lifestyle. I don't look like a guy that has cancer. If I didn't tell you I have cancer, you wouldn't know. I was teasing with my wife, I need to bring a proof of cancer card because people aren't going to believe me.
I know. And that's what you're talking about. It's like when we're talking about, facing that adversity ahead of time so that you're more prepared for it when it comes. But then it's also your body's more prepared for it too.
Yeah.
Right. Like
because you gotta, like, for instance, I've lost and gained back. I've lost 25 pounds, gained it back, lost 30 pounds, gained it back. Knowing how to eat, knowing how to prioritize protein and balance carbs and fat. Especially if you're down from a surgery and you're not able to move around and burn as many calories, it's important that you're not eating the wrong kind of foods and just losing muscle and stacking fat on. And it's really not. What I've come to learn is that two things can happen right alongside each other. You can do chemo and fight cancer, and you can build muscle and maintain fitness. One doesn't take from the other. So this fitness lane does not take from the chemo lane. If anything, it enhances I think the treatment because, the chemo is killing the cancer, and I think fitness kills cancer. I just do. Yeah. Every time I train, every time I get my heart rate up, I feel like I'm kicking. That's how I do it mentally. Yeah. And for me, people are like, how do you train on chemo? I was like, it's the time of day I feel best, to be honest with you. Rather than just like sitting around feeling the side effects, you get on a bike and get your heart rate up, remember what you love to do. And you kind of forget about things for a little while. And then, it's a little bit of an escape, so to speak. So, it's been a nice thing for me.
Yeah. And when people say, how can you do that? And you referenced, it's interesting because in your book, you talk a lot about faith, but then you also have a little philosophy in there. And at one point you quoted Nietzsche.
Yeah.
And you said something along the line, one of my quotes that Nietzsche is attributed to is he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow.
Yeah.
And that's, that quote speaks to me in so many ways.
Viktor Frankl too, with the
yes,
yeah. So that's the whole thing. The same with the rats in the jar.
Yes.
They as soon as they thought there was a little bit of hope, they lived so much longer. So yeah, lean into your faith, and if you have, let's say, if you have faith, you have hope, and if you have hope, anything's possible. I'm living proof so far. It's working for me, and I think it could work for others as well. That was the purpose of writing the book. So I said, I don't know how much longer I'm going to live, but I want to make my remaining days, months, years meaningful and purposeful, and helping people is what I want to do, and that's what I feel called to do, drawn to do, and so far so good. I'm going to go do this race. I'm going to try to raise this money. I'm going to try to promote this book, and then once we get past Kona, I will continue to do all those same things.
That's the thing. So you've had the cancer, which prompted all this, and thought you were going to, when told you got at max 2 years to live.
Yeah.
And then you have lived in such a way and had faith in such a way and done all these things in such a way that now you're beating it.
Yeah.
And then does it change your mission at all? And how do you say, I'm going to stay as on fire for this as I have been?
I think I've learned my lesson, so to speak. You know what I mean? I spent 59 and a half years. It's not like I don't have any regret. I want to hit rewind and go make better use of those 59 and a half, but I will make sure that I never forget that. And I think faith is a lot like the mental toughness. It's just something you have to work on every single day. You don't just have faith and then go, okay, I got it. I don't have to worry about that anymore. These are things you work on every single day. And I was talking with someone the other day, and we were saying, if you knew, talking about people with anxiety and worrying about tomorrow and things that are out of your control. I like the verse Matthew 6:34, which says, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. There's enough trouble in the day ahead. Easier said than done. But if you knew, if there was a way for you to know what's going to happen tomorrow, would you want to know? I think it would ruin tomorrow. I mean, there's something about the unknown. For me, is I guess for some people, they worry about tomorrow. I get excited about tomorrow because of the possibilities. So when you wake up and you have another day in front of you, it's almost like Christmas. It's like a present to be opened up, and you get to enjoy that whole other day. And who knows who you meet, who knows who you impact, or what have. That's kind of the joy of it. I'm meeting new people every day and getting some really good feedback on the things I'm doing, which just encourages me to keep doing it. And I'm getting as much out of it as I hope some other people are as well. So,
and that's the thing, is when we're talking about the way you view tomorrow and having it being a future thing and being excited about that rather than anxious. So many things come down to our perspective and our mindset and how that affects our mood, our mindset, our bodies. But the best part about it is, Jim, and you've learned this, whether on purpose or not, is that it's trainable.
Yeah.
That you can make that decision to say, and you're not very good at it at first, but you get better at it. And
you can train your brain just like you train everything else. And the more it works, the more you lean into it. So for me, in my case, I have a lifetime of experience, which is very helpful. But then once I decided to set my mind to some things, these things just happened. And, a lot of times people pray and they're like, oh, things aren't happening fast enough. Well, everything happened immediately for me. I don't know if because I said the thing, as long as I'm useful, God will keep me around. And I plan to continue to be useful. So,
and you mentioned this a little bit. It's something that I struggle with. And when I'm talking to people about changing your mindset and changing the way you think about things and your faith and things like that, I find that having a experience like you've had and on some level the experience that I've had is such a benefit for that a lot of people never face that, and it's hard for them to get out of that complacency.
Yeah, and I said, right, I had that snow globe, that perfect settled snow globe. I feel like God reached down and just shook it up, never to be the same again. And I wouldn't want it to be. And I'm grateful for the time to have the realization, to have the renewal of faith, to have the opportunity to strengthen all my relationships and kind of put things in order the way that they should be. So when I
But
think about,
I struggle to tell what to tell people when they haven't had a situation like that, or maybe they have and they just don't see it that way. I don't know.
it takes time. But at some point you have to come to a level of acceptance, which is kind of funny because when I've come to realize is when the doctor said I was terminal, and I thought about it, I was like, but haven't I always been? I mean, I was terminal before I came in here.
Right.
We're all going to die. I mean, that was true beforehand. So in some sense, it just causes you to think, because nobody ever thinks about dying, but we're all going to die. So it's just a matter of when and how. So, but you don't have to worry about that. At least I don't. But it causes you to think about it, and once you think about it, and you don't worry about it anymore. So it's just, I've always been that way. I'm more, I like to say I'm not a glass half full guy. I'm a glass overflowing. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in half. I like a full glass. That's how optimistic. Yeah, that's how optimistic I am. So I've always had that mentality. Probably even when I didn't rightfully have the right to have it, but I've always been a naturally optimistic guy.
Welcome to Mental Mettle Coaching, where our mission is to help you learn to thrive in the face of adversity, not just survive it. We are passionate about empowering you to live, play, and work with a resilient and spirited mindset. Hi, I'm Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF professional coach and keynote speaker. My background as an athlete, basketball coach, teacher, and school administrator has equipped me with the insights that resonate deeply with the schools, teams, athletes, and coaches I work with. However, it's my personal journey through anxiety, cancer, and an ischemic stroke in 2020 that truly brings authenticity to my presentations. While learning to speak and write again, I also pursued and earned my ICF coaching certification. Now the practices I embrace are more than theoretical concepts. They're a way of life. Developing a positive mindset is within reach for all, but it requires self-awareness and the repetition of intentional activities. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we'll guide you, your staff, and your students on this transformative journey. Together, let's forge your mettle.
Well, let's go back to, and you mentioned a little bit, but I want to hear a little bit more of the Chattanooga story and how that.
Yeah, the Chattanooga was, I think that was my 60th birthday. I had family and friends there.
Where is this in your?
It was 6 months into my diagnosis, and I was at my worst physically, because I had gone undiagnosed with stage 4 cancer. The cancer was really wreaking havoc. The chemo initially really wreaking havoc on my body. I had a level 3 skin infection. Teeth are falling out of my head. I mean, I looked like death, and it felt like death. And the race went horrible. And
not surprisingly, right?
Yeah. And so it was just a very low moment. That was like my greatest moment of despair. And I was struggling to be the optimistic guy, because I had always been the guy that can fix anything, do anything. I was just going to man up and handle this. But I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't do it. And I gave up, surrendered completely, and accepted the fact that this was it. Basically, I don't have much longer to live. And I just wanted to make sure that I was getting into heaven and that I was forgiven for all my sins. So I begged for forgiveness and had that moment of humility where I realized I'm just a man, nothing special. And, had a really good night's sleep. I woke up with I'm lucky that when I go all in on something, there's no question, there's no back and forth. I don't second guess myself.
That's a trait of most people that do Ironmans at some point.
And I was, and like I said, I had already been a faithful man, but now I fully understood as I had been stripped down to nothing, basically, that I'm weak and that death is nearby. So, at that moment, that's, like I said, I didn't pray for much of anything other than to die in a way that did least damage to my family. I didn't want them to watch me wither away and die, which was what was happening. Mm-hmm. And like I said, don't you know, the next week we got a scan that said, nope, I think we're going to do things a little differently. Now we have some options that didn't exist before. And if they could do the liver surgery, then they could do the rectal surgery. If they could do the rectal surgery, then we can get rid of the cancer. So for me, that's when hope came into play, faith and hope. Mm-hmm. Which I was lacking in faith. I should have leaned into my faith initially, but I wasn't there yet.
Why is it always such a last resort?
Yeah. You got to be stripped down 100%. And I definitely lacked humility. And it's funny because they talk in the Bible about the thorn in the side. I have the thorn in my ostomy is my thorn in my side. And believe me, it humbles me every day. So, but I'm thankful for the humility as well. It's allowed me to get closer to my wife and to my people that I'm close to, just by being vulnerable and humble. And letting people help you is one of the greatest things you can do for them, because they want to help you. You are sick. I need help. And so to take that away from my wife or my son or people who want to help me is not doing anybody any good.
I preach this, that the old version and connotation we have of toughness is such a negative one, and such a, don't let anything in, everything bounces off. And it is nothing but it's a hollow suit of armor with nothing. Yeah. And once something gets behind that armor, it's devastation. And it's not, the real toughness is opening up and letting people in, because it helps them, it helps you, it helps you grow, it helps all of these things.
Yeah, it just deepens that relationship. And humility was a big one for me. I used to joke that I lack humility, but I make up for it with overconfidence.
Right. And the thing is, you would say something like that as a joke.
Yeah, it was a joke.
And it's like, and it was true. Joke, but it's 100% true, but it's also a joke, right?
But then I was humbled completely by the cancer, which, stripped me down in a way that I didn't think was possible. And then at that moment, everything turned around. And since that day, pretty much everything I've set my mind to, I've been able to do. And that's why I feel like I'm being drawn into this. The road is just opening in front of me, saying, go this way. It's like so easy, especially now that the book is written, that's done. All I have to do is promote it. And now I'm a few months away from Kona. Hopefully the surgery will go well tomorrow. I'll recover quick. I'll get back on the road, do some training. I got 5 good months of training in on chemo. Yeah. So I did pretty good there, which this last 6 rounds of chemo damn near killed me again. Got rid of all the tumors, but left me with 2 blood clots on my jugular, which put me in the hospital for 7 days. Yeah. And again, right when I was at one of my weakest moments, and I was like, I just don't know. I know this race isn't important in the big scheme of things, but I really want it. And I didn't feel like at this point, I was like, this isn't going well. And then I get the news, no evidence of disease. And then the light comes back on. It's like, okay, keep going. Yeah. Keep trying. Yeah. So now I'm excited to see what tomorrow brings. I'm just going to do, and I keep telling myself, whenever I'm training, whenever things are difficult, if I can't do this, then I can't go to Kona. So I just take it in. Nobody does anything big in a day. It's always a series of little things, and we can all do little things. So if I keep doing the little things that I can do each day, I'll be okay when I get to Kona, and whatever will be, and I'll be okay with it, because I know that I will have done everything in my power to prepare.
Well, let's not worry about what's going to happen, but I'd like to look forward a little bit. And let's say that, like, you finish Kona, you do this, and let's say you're at the end, you're handed a live mic. Like, what's the message?
I'll be in hysterical.
I understand that, but what's the message?
If I could compose myself, the message would be thanks and glory goes to God first and foremost for the opportunity to be here and do this. And then secondly, if you have faith, you have hope, and if you have hope, anything's possible. And nobody does this stuff alone without God put these people in my path. All the people that are surrounding me at the Ironman Foundation, all the people that are supporting me through social media and other avenues, it's all part of the plan. And I'll be overwhelmed with emotion because of how many, DNFs I have previously, all the fights that I had to go through with the cancer. This day seems so far away to me, and now it's getting close enough that it looks real. Yeah. And it's starting to get very real for me. So the emotions will be, and I try not to think about it because it's so far away. Right. And anything can happen in 4 months or 3 months, whatever it is. It's it's the excitement of waking up and see what tomorrow brings. So but I couldn't be more excited to be alive right now at this point in my life.
But your training is no different than anybody else's. You can't worry about much past what you have to do today.
Yeah. No, that's and the rules remain the same.
It's the same.
Yes, cancer or no cancer.
It's
And I say,
wake up and what do I have to do tomorrow? Here's my
Yeah.
training plan. Here's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Here's what I get to accomplish.
And I would say this: if for people who don't have a plan, get a plan. Because one of the things I learned is, in my pursuit of happiness, I learned that happiness is in the pursuit. It's in your day. If you don't put some big plans on your schedule and then wake up every day excited to pursue it, you'll find out that anxiety and stress and all that stuff goes away because you've got something bigger on your mind.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. And something you're shooting for. So one of the little tactics I always used back in the day is in January, it was basically, I looked at as a season for me. So in January, I would pick my races for the year. Yeah. And I try to do 10 races a year, little ones, middle ones, and then I'd have a couple signature big races, but 10 races on the calendar and leading into usually Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving to New Year's would be my off time. But that would keep me focused on training because I have these dates on the calendar that ultimately lead to to whatever the big event of the year was. Yeah.
I used to run a lot, Jim, and I would always try to get in 1,000 miles a year.
Yeah.
And I would always try to get it done by Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, and
it takes
there were
time
several
off.
years. There were several years that I would have like a 10 miler to finish to get the 1,000 miles, and I would do that the morning of Thanksgiving. And
gotta do it.
Yeah, but it would also be like, okay, now I can eat, and now I can we can relax. They used to
run the Atlanta Marathon on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, really?
They don't do it anymore because who the heck wants to volunteer and be out there on Thanksgiving Day?
Exactly.
Now they do it in March, but as a tradition, we used to do it every year. One of the best Thanksgiving Day meals I ever had was after a marathon. I came home, my wife had everything set out. We ate so much, it was ridiculous. But,
absolutely. That's fantastic.
Yeah, running's my least favorite.
Really?
Yeah, I don't enjoy the run as much.
What's your favorite?
Bike. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was a high school swimmer, and so I'm comfortable in the water. Not terribly fast at anything, but I just enjoy doing it. I enjoy it, and we talked about there's joy in pain and there's meaning in suffering. I've had numerous people say, what happens when the race gets difficult? You're 8-9 hours in, and the pain sets in and it gets hard. It's like, well, that's what we paid for. That's why we're here. The first 8 hours was to get to this place because that's where the nuggets are. That's where it's like mining, you dig, and then once you get to the treasure, that's where that's what you're there for.
Well, that goes back to something you said before. I do this because I like it, but in that there's absolute truth in that. But that doesn't mean it's not painful.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard for people to understand that don't do pursuits that when we're talking about that intentional adversity and doing things personally, you can actually enjoy putting yourself into these difficult situations.
Yeah.
And that is difficult for people that don't do it. It is hard for them to understand that you can get to that place.
And then what happens is never mind just overcoming the immediate obstacle is you begin to wonder and realize that there's not much you cannot do.
Right.
And that's mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
To understand that even with me with the cancer and you're writing the book and go to it's like, well, what else am I capable of? Am I setting the bar too low? It's like you should always kind of set your goals higher than your ability to achieve them because you'll surprise yourself along the way. And then you keep achieving and then you're like, well, what else can I possibly do? Well, so I'll be curious to see what I do after October 10th. I'm excited to see what's next, but I'm going to meet a lot of people and I'm sure some opportunities will present themselves. I'm not going to worry about that. So we'll see what happens.
Failure is not the worst option. The worst option is not even trying. And that's the truth. So what's the last question I always ask Jim is what's the question I didn't ask you that I should have? What did we not talk about that we should have?
Oh man, probably should have talked a little bit more about how awesome my wife is.
It's important
because she will be listening to this, and I got to be honest with you. There's no me without her. Mm-hmm. I've been happily married to Kelly for 30 years, and I like to say she's been probably happily married for 25 of those years. I'm an extreme individual, and it can be difficult to be married to people like that. So even our vacations are kind of racecations. We go around races, and it's become a lifestyle for all of us. But without her and without her support, I don't think I'm sitting here. You know what I mean? So I don't really have the words to say thank you to her, but that's a little nod to the wifey. So I get some bonus points here in the family relationship.
Yeah, but that goes back into what we talked about, that vulnerability and how important
Yeah.
that is, because even when you're talking about not being humble and doing all those things, there's a lot, and this might have been you early on, like you won't even, like the person that's closest to you, you don't always let them in. And that
Right.
is how,
Yeah.
what a blessing you're missing out on to not allow that.
Yeah, no, it's I said the more you understand these things, the more you get back. So the more I give, the more I get back, and I'm just getting started. Like I said, I've only been diagnosed for a couple of years, but this, I just started doing these podcasts a couple months ago. The book just got released, and so I just feel like I'm starting brand new in life, and it's really exciting to have that vigor, that fire that I had back when I was in my 20s. And I don't know where that diminishes over time. It comes with age. Like I said, complacency. But to realize that you're never out of the fight, you can still do big things no matter how old you get. And it's really the joy. That's the joy in life. As I said, the pursuit of the happiness. It's in the pursuit.
Yeah.
It's in the daily activities. It's in the daily discipline. And you guys, I listened to you talk the other day on a podcast about one of the hardest things is how do you take this newfound knowledge and impart it on people. Because you just want to share it so badly, and then maybe not everybody's receptive. I think the best way to impart knowledge is just lead by example. Especially you as a coach. I mean, you know how kids are. A lot of times they don't listen to what you say; they watch what you do.
They do.
And how you live, and they'll emulate that.
Yeah, it is. It's I don't know. You just keep sowing seeds.
Yeah,
and if it lands on fertile soil, it'll grow. Right.
Yeah.
So you just keep planting those seeds, Jim, and you're doing a great job of it.
Yeah, I think you are as well. I appreciate your time for sure.
Your energy is contagious, and it's great talking to you. And I will absolutely be following. I'll absolutely putting all your links in the show notes.
Fantastic.
And getting everything out there and seeing if we can help you raise some funds and get some awareness. And
I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I love your title too, Mental Mettle, because it all starts in the mind.
It does.
So
it does.
I appreciate you sharing your time with me. I appreciate you sharing my story. Thank you so much.
You bet, Jim. Thank you so much.
Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they could still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great. They're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Mettle Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website, get started on the journey to a more confident, successful athlete with Mental Mettle Coaching.
So there's a few things from that interview that really just stood out to me, that resonated with me, things that Jim says that I say, we just say it in a different way. The first one is that, something you've heard me talk about on this podcast a lot, something I believe in, is the idea that intentional adversity prepares us for mandatory adversity. And so Jim, throughout his life chose Ironman training, something that's very, very difficult. He chose the early mornings, the long workouts, the discomfort, the setbacks, and even the failures, which come with an endurance sport. Nobody forced him to do those things. He did them because he wanted to challenge himself. What he didn't choose was cancer. What he didn't choose was chemotherapy and surgeries and uncertainty and being told he's only got, a few months to live. Yet it's the mindset that he built through years of intentionally doing hard things that gives him the tools when life handed him something that's much, much harder. All that discipline, all that resilience, and that ability to keep moving forward, it didn't magically appear after his diagnosis. It was something that he forged a long time before. When I talk about forging your mettle, and appreciating and enjoying even hard things, that's what we're talking about. It's not something that you can flip a light switch on. You have to kind of develop it and you have to forge it over time. And that's the important reminder, is that when we choose to do difficult things, whether it's training, whether it's just learning a new skill or having that hard conversation, or just, stepping outside of your comfort zone, even just a little bit, we're not just preparing for that challenge, we're preparing ourselves for the challenges that we don't know are coming, that mandatory adversity. And I say mandatory because nobody gets out of life without adversity that just gets like cards that get dealt to you. It's coming. I say it's mandatory because it's coming. We don't get out of life without them, without seeing that adversity, and the intentional adversity helps prepare you for that. And it's not a pessimistic attitude to do that. It's enjoying the adversity as we go along. That's important. And another thing that really stood out to me was when he talked about something I would call like that, the toughness of vulnerability, or I would call it a positive form of toughness. And Jim talked about a point where he just couldn't rely on his own strength anymore. And he described himself as, successful, capable, and independent. And for most of his life, he was this guy who could figure things out and handle everything that came his way because he did hard things in practice. But cancer hit it at another level, and cancer brought him to a place where he just couldn't simply outwork the problem. And that really stuck to me because his turning point wasn't really medical. It was medical, but it was brought on by medical, but it ended up being more of a spiritual one. And when I say I understand that and I feel that because it was a medical issue for me that prompted, a very personal, spiritual change where I'm like, I need to be vulnerable to be tough. And he did that. He surrendered, he became vulnerable, he accepted help, and he really, what I think is really important is that he truly leaned into his faith. And he describes that he was, a believer before, but this is a different level. When you really lean into it and you really, you know what I mean? You're just dependent on it. And I think that there's a lesson there for everybody, in the sense that we often think that toughness means putting up walls, carrying just the way we carry ourselves and never letting people see us struggle. But real toughness isn't about just holding on tighter and keeping things out. Sometimes it's letting go. And sometimes it's admitting that, hey, I need help. I can't do this on my own. And it's trusting others, and also trusting bigger than yourself. And that's where faith is so important in that. And sometimes it takes a moment, like a really tough piece of mandatory adversity, to say, okay, I can't do this on my own. I need some help, and reaching out and leaning into your faith. And that is not weakness. That is toughness. That is courage. And that is so important. And it's the weird thing that I feel so honestly, and Jim kind of feels that way too when talking to him, that it's almost somewhat of a blessing to be able to be knocked down so hard for you to have to lean into your faith, that it's almost, again, it almost feels like a positive that this bad thing happened. Another thing that I really love about Jim and what he's doing is just his perspective about the journey and how important the journey is. I really enjoyed his story, and I've heard it before, about the man that swinging the sledgehammer at the rock every day, and on the 1,000th swing he finally breaks it. Well, it's not, every swing every day mattered, not just the swing that last day. And we're always looking for that last day, but it's the journey and the 999 swings before it that matter. And the same thing's true in life. We tend to focus on finish lines. We tend to focus on championships, promotions, milestones, accomplishments, and outcomes. But those things are, they're the result of 1,000 small actions that came before them. And Jim talked about that like to train for an Ironman is hundreds and hundreds of workouts and months of preparation and countless decisions that just nobody sees. And yeah, the finish line matters, but the finish line isn't what creates the person. And the finish line doesn't create the medal. It doesn't create the toughness. It doesn't create the resilience. It's the journey that does that. And that's why it's so important to be able to say, I enjoy the journey and have fun and understand that I want to go on this journey. And I mean it. Like, I hope Jim finishes his Ironman in Kona. That would be just a phenomenal story. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is he keeps trying, as he says it. And what a great pun, by the way. Just what a great way. And Jim's book, his stuff is all in the show notes. If you like what Jim is saying, what he's talking about, check out his website, buy his book, and just hear it from his perspective. It's a fantastic. I'm so inspired by Jim, and man, it really gets me going, man. And just, it's not that story about cancer. It's not about the Ironman. It's not even about Kona. It's about continuing to move forward when you just don't know how things are going to turn out. It's getting up every day, taking that one more step, doing one more workout, but accepting help along the way as you do it, and just keep trying, because you never know when that last swing is going to break the rock. And even if you do break the rock, you find another rock to break, and you just keep trying. And just a great conversation with Jim. I really enjoyed it. But for now, this has been the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and always remember to forge your mettle. Thanks for listening to the Mental Mettle Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Mettle Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your mettle.